We're talking today with Joe Hegarty of Sussex, Wisconsin. This interview is being conducted as a joint enterprise between the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project and the Milwaukee Irish Festival 2019, which is where we are right now. Okay, so Joe, start with some background on yourself, and to begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born in 45 in a little village, West Cork, Ireland, a village called Drina. My parents, my dad was a grade school principal, and my dad was a housewife, and
Or your mom was a housewife.
my mom was a housewife. So I lived there, and then when I went to high school, I went away to high school to a boarding school. Then in 63, I got out of high school, and I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't ready at the time. I was a little young for one thing, so I went to England and worked in England for 2.5 years.
Okay.
In London.
And what kind of work did you do?
I did just tunneling. I was constructed those new, what they call tubes.
Mm-hmm.
So
subway tunnels.
I did. I worked at that, and then I said, well, I can't do this all my life. So I decided to come over here. I had a sister and an uncle in Milwaukee, so they sponsored us. You needed a sponsor at the time, which I think you still do. And so then that fall, I enrolled at Marquette. But when I arrived in the States, I still had to register with the draft within, I think it was 6 months. I had to register with the draft within 6 months because I was on a permanent visa.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got the same type of work, tunneling. We were tunneling here, and I got a job right away because they knew I did it in London. I worked third shift, so it was great. The pay was great. I worked third shift. I go home, take a shower, and go to school, and come back and sleep, and go back to work.
All right.
And then I went to Marquette, and when the 6 months were up, I registered with a draft, and right away, within a week or week and a half, I got a letter from the government that we need to talk to you, and that was.
Didn't you have a student deferment, or could you
No,
have had one?
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So then I didn't know. I didn't know the ins or outs of it, and I said, okay, I guess I didn't have much of a choice, but I had to go into service. But then at the time, nobody told me about the 2S deferment.
Okay.
I think it was 2S, wasn't it?
Could be.
For student
Student deferment.
Deferment, yeah. And nobody told me about my 2S deferment, so okay. And I got drafted, and off I went.
Now, what year was that?
That was in 65.
Okay.
I arrived in the States in April, actually tax day.
Mm-hmm.
And I got drafted in November, so that's,
Okay.
it was not too far over the 6 months.
All right. Now, do you remember doing the draft physical?
Yes, I do.
And was that a serious physical or a casual? I mean, did they make an effort to really examine you?
No, not really. It was, you didn't have any blood drawn, or you didn't. I think they may have checked your temperature,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
your pulse, to see if you're alive, and that's pretty much that.
There you go.
And the funny thing about that, though, was, actually, it wasn't funny at the time. We were all standing in a room in our, I think, shorts. I think it was. And, one of the officers the recruiting officer, I suppose, came up and he said, now I'll point at some people, and the people I point at take 2 steps forward. So he went around, it had to be 50, 70 cadets, our kids in there.
Recruits, yeah.
Drafted. So he went, at random, he just went around and take 2 steps forward, and they did. Said, now you're in the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the Marines. You still did your 2 years, but at the time, because of Vietnam, nobody wanted to join the Marines.
Right.
It was tough anyhow.
Okay. Now, did you know anything about Vietnam at the time you got drafted?
Very little. I never followed it. But yeah, I knew there was a war going on there, and I really had no desire to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But you do. And I didn't feel bad because I'm sure they had the right, because I was on a permanent visa.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed me, free run. But I have to do what every American person has to do.
Right. Okay.
And if they have to do it, why shouldn't I? Not that I would have liked to have missed it, but
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it like everybody else.
Sure. All right. Now, what did your family think of your going into the U.S. Army?
Oh, they were beside themselves. My sisters, my parents, they know some politicians in Ireland, and they went to the politicians, so them call over here and say, they said, can you get him out? He just got over there, and well, I didn't like that. I said, you gotta. I did tell him. I said, I appreciate the effort, but I said, I have to do what I have to do. At the time, didn't know I was going to Vietnam, but it's one of those things that every young person at a certain age would have to do that.
Yeah. All right. So now you're in. It's November of '65. Where do they send you for basic training?
Fort Hood, Texas. I went to Fort Hood, Texas, and then came home for Christmas.
Well, let's go back to Fort Hood. These days, a lot of people, most Americans don't serve in the military anymore, and don't really have much of an idea of how that works. So when you go down to Fort Hood, you arrive there, what kind of reception do you
Well,
get?
actually, they sent us down to Fort Leonard, Missouri.
Okay.
That was like a collection place for all the, probably maybe the Midwest, I don't know, but they pull you all together.
Right.
And then you stay there for about close to a week, I think,
Okay.
until they cut orders for you to wherever they wanted to send you.
Yeah.
And then they shipped you down to
Okay.
your,
Then you got to Fort Hood. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they were expanding the military a lot at that time, and they didn't always have enough room for everybody where they thought they would go. So you wind up at Fort Hood. Okay. When you arrive at Fort Hood, what kind of reception do you get?
You're in the military now.
Okay. So what happens to you?
They give you your backpack and you had a formation, and they said, they gave you the bill's number, and then you started your basic training. You did your PT and night bivouac and all that everybody goes through, and basic training pretty much.
Okay. Now, with the kind of work you were doing, were you in good physical shape when you went in?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was not bad, but then of course you work out, and then you actually get better.
Okay.
I could run all day.
Right. Okay. Now, how much emphasis was there on discipline, following orders?
Oh, a lot. Yeah, you couldn't do anything right, and you were not an individual. You were a number. You were government property, and they treated you as such. But that's part of it. That's part of the breaking down part of it, so you can probably react to things rather than think about them, because you know, if you think about it and you're in combat, you're dead.
Okay.
You
Now,
just got to react.
did you understand that at the time or figure that out later?
I know. I figured out it's not like they tell you. Well, they do, but it makes sense. You know, you to know yourself that you can react a hell of a lot faster than you figured it out in your mind.
All right.
You know, a react is now. And
Okay. Now, did some of the recruits have a hard time adjusting?
yes, they did.
Okay. What kind of problems did you see?
There were a couple of, well, it was more than a couple, 4 or 5 that would not adhere to any of the commands or nothing. They just didn't want to be in there. And one of them got in a fight with the drill sergeant, and that was a mistake. And so they kicked him out. Then we had, it's sad in a way that they actually drafted people that had no business at all being drafted. Now one person comes to mind, and that is, I won't mention his name, but I still remember his name. He was a hunchback. He had a hunchback. He couldn't do a sit-up. He couldn't do a pull-up. He couldn't, nothing. He could, the poor guy was physically unable to do it because he was physically unable to do it. It's not that he didn't want to do it. And all of a sudden then, oh, you're right, maybe there is something wrong. I mean, you can tell by looking at the guy. We're not doctors, but
Yeah. You
yeah,
do.
there's something wrong with this.
Yeah.
This guy can't do it. And I think the poor guy went probably about 3 or 4 days without eating. Man, you can't do your pull-up before you go in and, sorry, back in the line, or, well, I'm sure they fed him, but. So anyhow, there was something like that, but other than that, it was, uneventful,
Yeah.
really.
You just learn to do what they tell you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. You're in there just for the 2 years.
All right. So, and how long did the basic training last?
I think it was 8 weeks.
Okay. All right. And then you completed that. Did you go to advanced training next?
Yes. Then we went to this. I went home for Christmas. Oh no, I went home for Christmas. Then came back to Fort Hood to finish the basic training because that would be the 8 weeks. Then they gave you a leave of like 10 days or something, and then they gave us the new orders, and we were supposed to report in at Fort.
Were you doing artillery?
Fort Bragg.
Oh, Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah.
Okay. All right. And what kind of training did you get there?
Well, then everything pretty much eased up a lot. You know, you're out of the basic training now, but then I was assigned to the Hollisters, the big, I think they're M110s, is it? The track. You remember
Well,
that?
M1, though the M113 is the track that's the armored personnel carriers.
No.
Was this an artillery? Was this a howitzer or an
It's a
artillery? piece?
Hollister.
Okay. Yeah.
And on track. And you know the rounds were like 200 some pounds.
Yeah. So were these like 8-inch howitzers?
Were they 8 or 10? I think it could be 8-inch howitzers. Yeah. So I was assigned to that unit in Fort
Bragg.
Bragg, and then we were just forming a new unit, so we're going to put you in the 155 artillery, which they just deactivated, or just active, for Vietnam. But at the time, we didn't know. We just thought, we're going to shoot a good new gun.
All right.
Nobody knew we were going to Vietnam.
Okay. So you're getting artillery training, but it's armored artillery, motorized artillery originally.
No.
Well.
No, this is towed.
Yeah. Oh, those were towed guns.
Towed,
Okay.
yeah. We were airlifted, so.
Well, the 155s would be airlifted, or could be.
No, we were airlifted. Okay. We were 155s, and this is the first time they started airlifting guns.
Right.
That side, because they had that new helicopter I don't know what they call that.
Well, there's the Chinook.
Oh, it's bigger. Oh, yeah.
And then there's also the Sky Crane that's bigger
Sky
than
Train.
Sky Crane, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we had the Sky Train, for moving the guns.
Okay, so you're really, and I guess Fort Bragg is a base for the 82nd Airborne Division.
Right.
So there's airborne training. Now, did they give you jump school or not?
No.
Okay.
No, the 82nd you have to join if you want to go airborne, which some of the guys did. Then they had to join the 82nd.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's another year or 2 more years,
Right.
I think it was, onto their, if they wanted to stay in there a little longer.
Okay. So you just go where they send you. They put you on the big track guns, and then they switch you to this 155 unit.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay. All right. Now, and do you remember what? Now, is that did you go to Vietnam with that unit, or did you?
Yes, we
okay.
did.
And so
we went as a battalion.
Okay. And so what was the battalion number?
First 92nd, First Field Artillery,
Okay.
92nd.
Okay. Probably 1st Battalion, 92nd Field Artillery.
Yeah.
Is likely the. Okay. And then which battery were you with?
I was in B Battery.
B battery. Okay. All right. So when did you get orders for Vietnam?
Let's see here. It had to be in November, late November, I believe.
Okay. So now we're in 1966.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So about a year after you joined the Army.
Yeah.
Okay. So during the time that you spent at Fort Bragg, you said you might have done some training at the beginning, but then you're just with the unit and doing the same thing that everyone else is. So you're all working together.
Yeah, you're working together, and really then they slacked off a little bit. The training slacked off, and then obviously the orders came down that were being shipped out as a battalion. So then it got more intense again, the training, but nobody minded it because
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Now, during this year when you're in training and based in the United States, did people notice that you were Irish, or did they treat?
Oh yes,
And did
they
they
couldn't help it. That's why.
Yeah. And did they treat you any differently or any better?
I think they did because they were unusual. I mean, it's different because they're all asking the same question. How come you're in here?
Yeah.
I thought you had to be a citizen to be in the service, or you had to be a citizen to go overseas, and no, you don't.
And were you a little bit older than most of the guys?
No, I was about the same.
Okay. All right.
I might have been maybe 5 or 6 months,
Okay.
but other than that,
Okay. All right. So now you get to the end of the year. Now, before they sent you to Vietnam, did they give you any kind of preparation? Did they tell you anything about Vietnam, or?
well, they did, yeah. And then they started having little sessions on it, and then what they did was they changed our we at the time we were using what was it? I'm trying to do the rifle.
So the M14 rifle?
M14, and then they switched us to the M16.
Okay.
Because and they quickly ran us out to the firing range, to sight it in, and everybody got brilliant. I was firing right in. I never fired a shot, but the target was going down every time. And the sergeant said, "Hey, good firing." I said, "Oh, thank you. I haven't fired a shot yet." I had nothing to fire at, which means everybody else was.
Somebody else was
It's
hitting your
not
target.
meant to be a long distance. It's like more of a spray gun,
Right.
So,
But you got an introduction to the weapon anyway.
yes, we did.
Okay. All right. And now, did they give you a leave home before you left?
Well, call me a nice guy if you want, but I felt, actually, I left it and I said, well, you know what? I don't have any money to go back to Ireland to visit my parents.
Yeah.
And not belittling my brother and sister, but everybody else left their parents. A lot of them was their first time getting out of the house. So I said to, the commanding officer, I said, I know where to go. So you can, I can go out last so, yeah. So they gave me, everybody else got about 2 weeks or a week and a half, something like that. So I got like 7 days, so, which is fine.
All right. Okay. And now, where did you go to leave from? Did you go out of California or Washington or?
California. As I said, we went as the battalion, so they had all the equipment, everything, the equipment. Leave from, I think, Charleston, South Carolina,
Okay.
was it?
Okay.
And they went that way, and then they flew us from Pope Air Force Base to Oakland. And then we took a merchant ship, the USS Conrad.
So you got to sail across.
Well, yeah, that's just the point here I'm making is I really went on 2 really great voyages because I got a boat over here from Ireland too. So I did the Atlantic, and I did the Pacific, and I did the South China Sea, and so I had a great cruise,
Okay. So did you have good weather on the trip?
Yeah, actually, for the most part, there were a couple of days. I lucked out. Well, not lucked out, but I was fine. I didn't get sick. I don't get sick, but boy, some of those kids they'd never been on a ship or a cruise sea, and you see the same kids on the same stairwell with the same can between their legs, and you feel so sorry, But that took a long time because, we stopped in Hawaii on the way over we didn't get off. To pick up Marines. And then we stopped at Okinawa. So there they left us off the boat to stretch our legs. You're not going to stay in Okinawa. No, that's the end of the world, And then we went on to Vietnam. We went to, I think, right down around Cameron Bay first, dropping some. Then they went up along the coast, and they're going to drop us off at Quin Yan. And it was big storms, wind blowing out. So they stretched that and moved on up to Da Nang, and then they left the Marines off. Then we came back down again to Quin Yan, and the wind, it's still just howling. And they couldn't, they had to get us off, so they lit those landing crafts.
Okay.
Like they did in World War D-Day.
Yeah.
And, but the problem is that we had to come down the side of the ship on nets. You either crawl down, which you don't. You didn't have it, yeah.
And you had never
And a lot of
trained
people, and a lot of people got their legs crushed between the boat, between the landing craft and the ship.
Wow.
Because they tried the swells. You try to get off that net and time it. So that was a mess.
All right. But you got through okay.
I did, yeah.
Okay. All right. So now you go and you get to land on the beach.
Then you get to land on the beach, and they throw up the front door there, and you get out. I said, oh boy. And we sat out in offshore for about 2 or 3 days, and all you could hear at night is all this firing. Oh God, look what we're heading into now, And but we later we found out we were doing the same thing as artillery. You do the H&I rounds, is it?
Yeah.
Harassment, and you get a
Interdiction,
quadrant and
yeah.
you shoot into it at night.
Yeah. Okay. So you land on the beach. Now what happens?
Now they had trucks. The equipment is still on the way. I think we had to wait for the equipment for about a week and a half. So our base camp was in Play 2, Central Islands.
Okay.
So we, went by truck to Pleiku, and it's up above the city, and it used to be an old French based camp, because you know what happened to them,
All right. Now, what was your first impression of Vietnam when you got there?
Different. Oh boy, this is not home. This is, people are. You're looking at the kids are different, the people are different. The poverty is everywhere. It really was. Really, I felt for those people. It was so tough. They had nothing.
Okay. All right. Now you get to your camp. So this is an established base camp that you're going to, or did you have to make your own camp?
No, they already had built or created some living quarters and so forth, and we just sat there until we got the equipment.
Okay.
The minute we got the equipment, I think we maybe had spent one night in base camp, and that was the last time we saw base camp.
Okay. So you're with you're the 155 howitzer battery. Those are big guns. Okay.
Yeah.
So how long did it take for the equipment to show up?
It took us almost a month to get there.
Okay. So what?
Because of the weather, and probably took the equipment about 5 weeks.
Okay.
They had to go down the east coast of the U.S. and then go to the canal.
Right. Okay. So once you were at Pleiku, you waited about a week for them?
Yeah, week
Okay.
and a half probably.
So not a long time. Okay. Once the guns get there, now what happens?
No, of course, now I'm sure they've been already working on different locations that they're going to put you at. But starting out, we didn't airlift right away. We was towed, with the trucks, and we go to a position wherever, 20 miles away, 10 miles away, 50, and out quite a ways, and then you move on and go to another place.
Okay. Now these places that you were going to, were these fire bases or just pieces of land in the country somewhere, or?
No, it's some place in the country that you made a base out of it.
Okay.
We were there in '67, so it was only really building up then. So we'd move, they'd go out recon and they'd find the suitable place and build you'd have to move the entire battery. Now you're down to batteries.
Right.
Obviously, you had 6 batteries, 6 gun batteries, and they all went in different directions.
Right. Okay. But you moved the guns by truck?
Yes.
Okay. You didn't use the helicopters?
No.
Okay.
The only time we used the helicopters when we were going to an LZ landing zone.
Right.
Yeah.
And how often did you do that?
Landing zone?
Yeah.
Oh, all the time. Once we were there, and there was more activity, and the NVA started coming in, North Vietnamese Army.
So we were, in your story, basically, we had gotten you out to the field, and you're
Right.
in the area around Pleiku, and you left the base camp, and you go off to different places, and some places you go by truck and just move the battery, but...
Initially, we pretty much by truck.
Right.
Well, maybe for the first, 2 months maybe.
Okay. Now, during that time, first of all, was there much of a road network there?
No.
Okay.
Terrible.
So...
It was all red dirt, and I have a story about that.
Go ahead.
Should I tell that?
Sure.
Which I never told anybody. You're the first people.
Well, how about that? Well,
I've
red
never
dirt story.
told anybody the story, but we went out to this position to, would have been south. No, it would to be, yeah, southwest. Yeah, southwest of Pleiku. But it was out there probably 20 miles, maybe 30 miles. And we had we went out by truck, and one of the trucks had a problem. That the whole bed had shifted, and they needed to take it back into base camp, which we're a long way from the main road, even though it's like a dirt road. It's a good sized road, but it's a dirt road, red dirt. And during the monsoon season, and we pulled straws to see who's going to drive the vehicle back to base camp, and I lost.
Okay.
So they send what do they call those things on track? They do like M60 machine gun on top.
Yeah, usually an M60 machine gun.
Yeah, on track it was like a little box. It was a box. It was you just had the driver and the guy on the gun. And yeah, they use them a lot to escort, like me in this situation. It was a truck.
Okay.
Back to the main road where you meet up with the rest of the convoy. So we took off, and I'm behind these guys, and they're just right down the road because they got a track. Well, I'm trying to keep up with them.
Okay. So are you following an armored personnel carrier? Is that what you were?
Yeah.
Behind? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The M113 probably. Yeah.
And I forget anymore.
Big armored box.
Yeah, big. Yeah, and so we went around the corner, and there it's gone, and I went straight. I ran off the road. Now here I sit, and I hadn't been long in country, so I'm sitting there, and I said, oh boy, I better get out of the truck. Then I could see the branches move on one side, and oh boy, now my goose was cooked, and I went around the truck, and then right behind me on the other side, there were branches moving. And I just said to myself, well, this is it, or hopefully they're friendlies. And I was getting ready to, you're scared. I was getting ready to start firing. Thank God I didn't. And then someone stepped out. They're like mountain yards. They're the primitive, very primitive people, which were friendlies. Most mountain yards were very friendly in Vietnam. They're very, very, very primitive, and mountain yards are mountain people.
Yeah. So the French is montagnard, and then we call them mountain yards. Yeah.
So then we finally these guys are escorting me. Realized that I wasn't with them anymore, and they came back, and I said, "Hey, I used some choice words. So sorry." Well, I know exactly what they were doing. No, I shouldn't say that. No, down there. But that was the first scary moment. And I think then they flew me back out to that same, because now I had to get back out there. They went in a chopper, and I think that night, the night after, this is probably everything is our first contact with Charlie. We're middle of the night, and all of a sudden the flares are going, and mines are going, and because everybody starts firing, and this and that. And then we started setting up flares once it died down a bit. But Charlie had got together these water buffalo, and they stampeded them into our barricade.
Okay. And for people who don't know, who are Charlie?
Well, they're the Viet Cong. These were probably they were local. A lot of people actually lived in those villages, and some of the village people didn't even know that they were pro North Vietnamese, or so they're
But it's normally a term used for the Viet Cong. So or
Well,
sometimes North Vietnamese too, I guess.
Yeah,
But-
we took Charlie, or they're different names. Anyway, the North Koreans were NVAs.
Well, North Vietnamese.
Yeah, because it's regulated.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. But you think these are probably the locals who were
They're
doing this?
locals, or they're groups of militia that was their job, to go out and just make life tough, or try to pick one off. We had a lot of that. More-
Snipers?
Huh?
You had sniper attacks?
Yeah.
or-
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. So they stampeded water buffalo at
Yeah.
your encampment.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we killed 6 of them. Well, because now, of course, the U.S. government has to pay the farmers at an exorbitant amount for the water buffalo. They probably still have the meat, and they get money to buy another water buffalo.
Right. Okay. So that's kind of your first combat experience.
Right.
All right. Now, did you ever, when you were driving around in the trucks, did anyone ever shoot at you?
Yeah, we were. Now this is when we were getting ready. Actually, we were on our way to Khartoum.
Mm-hmm.
We were heading up towards Dak To, because there's a lot of things building up there, and you had the 4th Division up there. You had the 173rd Airborne. You had the 1st Cav. You had Rock Marines, which were the Koreans.
Mm-hmm.
So we and all those various other. So we were not assigned to anybody.
Okay.
They just call up and say, we need artillery support, and depending where they are, we'd have to pick up and go on another LZ to get closer enough, you just all of a sudden, whenever they start picking up, and as it went on, it got more frequent and more deadly. One thing I'm fortunate about, and I feel sorry, I didn't feel good about it, is I rotated in the middle of November, and I was just thinking about actually extending, because we were so short-handed,
Mm-hmm.
people were rotating out.
Okay. Now, how many were you in a gun crew?
Yeah,
Okay. How many men are supposed to be in a gun crew for a 155?
I think it was about 10 in it,
Okay.
roughly.
And how
I
many?
don't even remember anymore.
Yeah. And how many did you have?
At the time, we only had about 6 in the gun crew, or maybe 7.
Okay. All right. And then in that gun crew, what was your job?
Oh, anything. Everybody did. You either load the cannon. Sometimes your job was setting timers, or arming the round. Everybody pretty much chipped in, really. So it really worked good for us.
Okay. And how did you get your targets?
Pardon me?
How did you get your targets? How did you know where to shoot?
Oh, we had our own FOs, and they'd call it into the fire control mission, and then they'd send it down to the guns with the coordinates, and you set it all up, and then you fire.
Okay.
Then they ask you to adjust. And in one particular one, we're really a long fire mission, and I ran out. They had what they call firing or aiming sticks. They had a little light, or a little black light, So somebody said, we need to go out, and so I said, I'll do it. I went around in front of the gun, and the gun went off. I didn't think it was fucking loaded, so this eardrum was blown up. I would, it knocked me out for a second, probably a second or two, and then ever since then, no hearing here early, and ringing in the ears.
Okay. Now, did you have ear protection?
Yeah, but they never stay in. Back then it was like little pieces of rubber, the old original, and they weren't very good. We didn't have any big, earphone mufflers. So anyhow, that was one of my injuries there. And the rest would have been related for just being there.
Okay. Now, when you were out in the field on the fire base or wherever you were set up, did you ever get a conventional ground attack?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We had, this is what the doc told. It was just starting when I got rotated out that actually NVAs were trying to come in. So we had to shoot them or fire at them and fire a mission at the same time. So.
Okay. Now, you could use the 155 against someone trying to get into the wire?
You could, but not too often. You can do it at 155. With direct fire, and you're not, you're up in an LZ. No, the 105s would be better, right?
Yeah, so this a little bit smaller gun, easier to use that way.
And you can move them around a little easier, but they're. I thought we did, but I don't remember if we had any beehives. You had beehives, right? Yeah. I'm sorry.
Just explain what a beehive round is.
Well, we used to call them beehives. I think you'd fire the round, and then it would be on a timer, and say you direct fire at somebody. You just have it set, and the round would explode and break into hundreds of thousands of pieces of flying steel.
So it's like a giant shotgun.
Yeah, but very, very effective. Very effective.
Okay. But you're not sure if you fired any
I don't
of those?
think we did.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, did you have situations where any of the NVA would get inside the wire and onto your base, or?
Right after I left, they did. Oh yeah, they had pictures of them hanging on the wire. They had pictures of them on the ground. After I did, we lost a lot of people.
Okay.
Well, we got a lot of sniper fire there then too. We had all of the LZs were bad. Everyone there was trouble.
Okay. So you get sniper fire. Did you take mortar rounds?
Yeah. In fact, one day we hadn't taken a bath. You're out in the field. You'd like to clean up sometime. Sometimes they tell you to clean up when you're in basic training. Here they don't, but you want to clean up yourself, and we took turns going out over the perimeter in the afternoon. There's a nice stream coming down the mountain. There's a beautiful little stream there, and I think we went out like in 10. We'd have 5 guys cleaning up and 5 guys in guard duty. Of course, right when we were out there, we got hit by a mortar attack. So we all crawled in the river. But
Okay. But you'd also get hit with mortars when you were on the bases?
yeah,
Okay. Now, when you were on the LZs or places like that?
not as much on the LZ because it's so difficult to get there. But we did have some. We did. They got a small target. And, we did get some mortar and sniper. A sniper attack.
And did you ever see any of the NVA yourself?
Yeah. No, we saw them. Actually, one time we had fire mission. It was right below us, down below us, and they were coming through. And I don't know what, it could have been the 173rd, I don't know. And they called us, but they were right below us, and we just were able to lob some rounds, and also primarily some flares. And that's why then they called in the, for napalm. and then the napalm would just
Yeah.
keep hitting with napalm and just burn the whole.
Okay. So you could see them because the flares lit up the
Yeah.
landscape, and so you could
Yeah.
see them down there. Yeah. All right. Now, what do you think was your closest call? Was it being hit with a mortar while you were taking a bath, or when you were sitting out there in the truck?
Probably when I was taking the bath, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were firing at us. I had to,
All right.
they're all
Yeah.
flopping around us. So.
Yeah. Now, did your battery take many casualties while you were there?
Yes, we had about 4, I think. 4 died, and about 4 or 5 other guys got wounded.
Now, did other
And
guys?
a lot of them were on perimeter.
Yeah.
Those snipers.
And then, did they also just have problems with the tropical diseases and infections and things? Would that take people out?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. Some people got malaria and scorpions. Scorpions were pain in the ass. And snakes, of course. But I didn't hear of anybody ever getting bit by a snake there.
All right. Okay. Now, because of what you were doing, you didn't have to hump around in the jungle or walk around or do any patrolling.
No, we didn't do any patrols.
Okay.
No.
Did you do perimeter guard?
Yes,
Okay.
we did perimeter guard.
And so, what would that be like?
That would be, I think the first time, well, the scariest time I ever had actually was when we got there first, and we were set up next to a village, Vietnamese village, and they had I was in perimeter guard. It was the middle of the night, and all around us, of course, then you have your defenses, your claymores, your barbed wire, and you this and that, and it's just a dead of the night, and you get night vision, and I'm in there, and over this big rat, a rat about this big, and I hate rats. They jump right up next to the M6, the machine gun.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I don't want to make any noise. I'm like with sandbags. I said, I was trying to hit the sandbag, and he just came in. Now he's in the bunker behind me somewhere, and that's it. I'm getting out of here. I don't care, but I went and laid next to the bunker and did my rest of my guard duty there until the next guy came and tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Oh shit." Oh.
All right. Now you said so you did see at least some of the Vietnamese civilians then.
Pardon me?
We had a Vietnamese village next to that position.
Oh yeah.
Okay. What kind of impression did you have of the civilians?
I don't think they cared for us. Now, if they're mountain yards or something like that, for them, we got along better with them. But Vietnamese themselves didn't want the war. You have to understand the politics of this probably, and I don't think they wanted that war. It was all political. Well,
Right. Yeah. They probably just wanted to go about their lives.
Yeah.
And you were there.
So a lot of the Vietnamese say, GI, go home, GI, this, GI, that. And I don't blame them.
All right. And now, so you spent your time in the field. Did you get to go back to big bases or?
Not all, no. I think we only went back to base camp. One day we were moving, and the 4th Division, we passed their base camp. So we stayed there overnight. And then the next day we went to our base camp and spent there overnight, and then we were gone. And then that's when we headed up to Dak To and started getting airlifted.
Okay. Now, as you're moving around to these different places, do you know very much about what's actually happening? In terms
No.
of, do you know about what's going on in the larger war, or?
No.
Okay.
You never got that report. I mean, you were just there. I don't think anybody knew what was going on, but no.
All right. Now, did you take an R&R while you were in Vietnam?
I did. I
Okay.
went to Taipei.
Hmm.
Everybody else went to Bangkok, and I said I was the last one to take R&R. I say everybody else went to Bangkok, and I said, well, I heard so much about Bangkok. I'll go to Taipei, and that's where all the Australians went.
Okay.
So that was nice.
All right. What was there to do there?
Nothing much really. I
Okay.
mean, you were just out of the the situation,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. There's no war.
That in itself was a vacation. The stress, but it was a nice break from it.
Yeah. So you could.
And then I rotated. Actually, I rotated probably about 5 weeks. 5 weeks after that.
Okay. All right. Now you would go on to Taipei, so you spend a week in a place where there's nobody shooting at you,
Hmm.
and then you have to go back to Vietnam. Was that hard to do, or did you?
Yeah, it was, and everybody says the last week or two, when you're there, you're probably the most crucial.
Mhm.
And I think the reason being like that is people are thinking more of their going home, and all of a sudden let the guard down, and
Yeah.
so there's probably is some truth to that.
Yeah.
That
Although you weren't a combat infantryman, so it was a little. You were a little bit safer in that
Oh,
sense because
yeah.
you're on a base. And,
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have that kind of issue.
Right.
All right. Now, if you think over that time that you spent in Vietnam, are there other particular memories or impressions that you haven't talked about yet?
No, I mean, there's so many things that you forget about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, you'll think of those after we turn the camera off.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you've made it now to the end of '67. You're rotating home now, and you're doing it at a point when the fighting is still going on around Dak To, and will keep going. Did it feel strange to just kind of pick up and leave at that point?
It was terrible. I was happy to be, but then my buddies, they're not going home yet.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I considered, well, we're right in the middle of a big battle, and I second guessing myself, and I said, I should extend. I mean, they're your friends, or they're your people you spend time with.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, going home. Yeah, well, then we found out what we came home to. So
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's the process for getting you home? You just get orders one day, or
you get orders one day, and they come out and say you're going home, and they just take you back to base camp, and they do all the paperwork and give you your passes, and then they flew me down to Cameron Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent about a day there, or two maybe. And then they flew us home by, commercial
Right.
flight, I think. American Airlines at the time, I think it was.
Okay. And
And we flew into Fort Lewis, Washington.
okay. And what happens when you get there?
Then they give you a physical. Well, not, pretty much some of the thing they gave you when you went in. Oh, you're fine.
All right.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Now, did they discharge you right there because you were done?
yeah.
Okay.
They give you, passes to go wherever, free air.
Okay. And where did you go to? Oh, let's back up here. Okay.
Yeah, I went back to Milwaukee. Came back here. And I had a problem for a while when I got back. A lot of alcohol was a problem, mental stuff. I stayed with my brother, and I used to scare the hell out of him. He said, "Joe, you can." And so then after '69, well, '68, and then of course you got treated late.
Okay, yeah. Now, when you came home from Fort Lewis, did you fly in uniform or in civilian clothes?
Uniform, because that's the only clothes I had.
Okay. And did you have any problems on that trip? Did anyone bother you?
No, actually, the flight attendants, myself and another friend of mine, had us come up to first class, which is sort of nice, and
Yeah.
give us a nice meal and some wine and stuff like that.
Okay. Now, and then in '68, did you take a job or go to school?
Yeah, '68 I worked, and then in '69 I went back to school.
Okay.
So I had a part-time job, and I had the GI Bill, so I went to the University of Wisconsin here.
Okay.
And so I spent, I did business. I went into business. And when I got out, oh no, what do I do? And my brother had been in the bar business.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Joe," he said, "there's good money in it." This is back in, '75.
Okay.
And I said, maybe. And then I got the bar business, and then I was there for 30 years. And then my brother, he had a place up around Milwaukee Brewers in a stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It was right up in the hill, and he had a lot of. So he got sick. He had Alzheimer's, Alzheimer's. And Marquette University, I had a bar down Marquette campus. So business is good there, and but Marquette wanted the property, so they bought me out, and then my brother's getting sick, and he asked me if I go up there and run his place. So I ran his place for 7 years, I think it was, and then I sold it. Yeah, he passed away, and I had to sell it, which is.
Okay. Now, you said when you got back, you had trouble adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of, how long do you think it took you to get sorted out, or how did you do that?
I don't know. I just don't know. It wasn't easy, but even school was, I wasn't settled down. I tried to settle down more when I went into business.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked hard, and because nobody wants to hear your story, which is just fine. So I said, let's put this out of our mind and put the war behind us.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not think about it.
Yeah.
Let's not even tell anybody you were in the service. You didn't want to discuss it between other veterans. And I never felt like, so I went ahead, they checked him and said, "You're okay." And I thought, I don't know, the whole thing was caving in on you. And then they said, "Well, one more stop," and they went to take me to a psychiatrist.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me some questions. She said, "Yeah, it's coming back now again, because I'm not working anymore. I get time in my hands, so now I can look and try to put a handle on the things that we should have done 50 some years ago,
Right.
and we didn't.
Okay.
And that's unfortunate."
Yeah. But it happened to an awful lot of guys.
God,
you
yeah,
put
I'm not
it
the only
behind
guy.
you, and now.
And I'm fortunate. I didn't. I'm much better than a lot of other people.
Yeah. Well, you may not have. I don't know. Did you see a lot of physical casualties and people who were injured, or was that mostly somewhere else?
Our guys, and we, saw people hurt. I mean, injured, yeah.
Yeah. So you would see some of that plus, yeah. But anyway, that can happen to a lot of people. But now at this point, you're
I
able-
saw at one location, we supported the Rock Marines, which we supported them quite a bit, and they were fighters. And we went to they just had a big battle, and we supplied the artillery or the firepower. So we went to where they had a big battle the night before, and you could see all these, the NVAs and whoever was all dead, dead laying around there. I think there was about 200 or 300.
Yeah.
And all these, it's sad.
Oh, you see all those things and your own guys. I mean, that can certainly stay with you.
You're not used to it, no, but look, yeah, well, because when I lived in London before I got that job with the underground, I worked out for British Railroads on the lines, and we had some guys working overhead on like power lines, and with time to go home, it was a Friday evening, so we waited. We could get out of because there were a lot of lines coming in. It was on the turn. So 6 guys came down off of the overhead line, and they stepped in the long rail and got blown away. So that was the first nasty thing I saw, and probably worse than anything really.
Okay. So now are you getting some support or?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I have my hearing. Well, my hearing. I got. They don't give you any. Just ringing in the ears. You do. I have PTSD.
Yeah.
See, you got. I have diabetes. Not bad.
Do they attribute that to Agent Orange?
It is, yeah. Even though I didn't have, at the time, we didn't have much of it. We were just beginning to.
So the roads in the area that you are operating on, those had not been defoliated?
The roads were not because, well, they were.
Yeah, but alongside the roads?
No.
Okay.
Sometimes I think they did it on our LZs though too.
Yeah.
To kill stuff off.
Okay. So now I guess to look back at the time you spent in the Army, how do you think that affected you positively or negatively?
Well, it's a tough one. I think it's a little more negative than positive because, as I say, when I did come back, I didn't adjust very well.
Yeah.
And that was the key time for me to be able to adjust and get the. Let's put it this way. I don't think because of my drinking and my this that I got as much out of my education as I should have. And I think that was probably one negative. And now, of course, I'm dealing. My nightmares are terrible. So.
Yeah. Was there a positive side to it?
I suppose there was. Even when I was there, I had a feeling for the people. Because, we were upset their whole lives. Maybe just because one village has 1 or 2 or 3 nasty people, well, you blow up the whole village. And I looked at that. We did a lot of firepower into like tea plantations, and that was a big hangout for Viet Cong. And we just bombed the whole goddamn village. So you're killing innocent kids. I call that all stuff. Well, what are you doing? it's afterwards you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that you physically went up there or
Right.
directly went up there, but you were part of that whole operation that you contributed to it. So there's stuff like that. And then, but I tell you, yeah, I think it makes you grow up.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely grew up.
You get a sense of what's important.
Yeah. You would just say, you know, wow. You could see the difference the minute you got over there. You were young. Yeah, we were young kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was a kid. I was just 19, just turned 20, I think. And some of the other guys were like 19, and not too long out of high school, and you could see. I think you grew up a lot after a few weeks over there. It's not fun. It's, you know, you're here to keep your head down and not, you know, you want to get home alive.
Mm-hmm. Do you think?
And with us, artillery, you know, we had a much better chance because of the nature of what we did.
Right.
We didn't. We at all weren't. You know, like infantry,
Right.
went through the rice paddies, or we didn't have any up where we were, but or doing any infantry work. I mean, it was, you know, you get up in the DMZ and places like that. Then it was tough.
All right. Well, it's certainly an interesting experience, and we very much appreciate your willingness to share the story today. So thank you very much for coming and doing the
You're
interview.
welcome.